Thank you, Stephen. Welcome to KRBL Limited's Q2 and H1 FY22 earnings conference call for analysts and investors. I'm pleased to introduce to you senior members of the management team on today's call. We will have Mr. Anil Kumar Mittal, Chairman and Managing Director, Mr. Anup Kumar Gupta, Joint Managing Director, Mr. Ayush Gupta, Head Domestic Division, and Mr. Ashish Jain, Chief Financial Officer, joining us. We propose to commence with updates from Mr. Anil Kumar Mittal, Chairman, with views on the industry, business, and broad strategy. He would be followed by Mr. Ayush Gupta, who would take us through perspectives on the domestic business. Thereafter, we shall have the financial review presented by Mr. Ashish Jain. After the opening remarks from the management, the forum would be open for an interactive question and answer session. A cautionary note, certain statements made on today's call could be forward-looking in nature and actual results could vary from these statements. A detailed statement in this regard is available in KRBL's investor presentation, which is available on the company's website. I would now like to invite Mr. Chairman Anil Mittal to share his views. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good evening to everybody. Let me first give my best wishes to all for this Diwali festival season. May you all be blessed with the bounty of prosperity and happiness in the coming times. Coming to the business, we all know with the efforts of the government by vaccinating more than 100 crore people within the time frame, we have more or less controlled the COVID pandemic to some extent. However, it all depends of how much our people remain disciplined and follow the norms stipulated by the doctors and the government. It is a great relief to note that globally agro commodities have started picking up pace, leaving few countries like Europe and US. However, we had to face some hard times, especially in the logistic front, particularly in shipping. The availability of containers became a challenging factor, including the escalation of freight rates, which have gone up by 5 times. The container freight rates for USA, which used to be $2,000, have shot up to $12,000. For Canada, the rates have gone up to $14,000 per container. Similarly, for Europe, the container freight rates have gone up from $900 to $7,000. And for Middle East, the rates have gone up from $6 to $700 to $2,000 to $2,500 per container. Same way, freight rates have gone up to every other destination, which has slowed down the demand to some extent. As a result, there is a 15% decline in the second quarter in the export of basmati rice from the country. But the challenge is not just the freight rates, but the availability of containers has become a major obstacle. The containers are not available for many destinations for the last 2 months. We at KRBL have to wait for about a month to get containers for destinations such as USA, Canada, including Australia and South Africa. Anyhow, I remain thankful to my shipping department who have been working day and night and have been following up with the shipping companies so that we are able to manage the situation to a great extent. However, the importers are really feeling the heat because the freight amount for USA is as much as 50% of the cost of the product, to the tune of $200 billion. You must have heard that the shipping lines have made astronomical profit to the tune of $200 billion this year. But we feel that things will not remain the same, and I think that there will be a correction in the freight rates in next 6 months. The turnover of the company is almost the same as compared to the last quarter and year-over-year basis. But the export sales have come down by 44% over last quarter and 57% over year-over-year basis. During this quarter, we had an incident where there was a breakdown into one of our vessels which was carrying around 28,000 tons of basmati rice worth around rupees 140 crores. The cargo reached the destination only by end of October, and the payment for the same are being received now. Besides, we are unable to locate a new distributor for Saudi Arabia which used to be our premium market. We are not able to visit Saudi Arabia due to travel restrictions, which I hope would be relaxed by the end of this month or by early December. I am sure that our fourth quarter will show a remarkable progress as far as Saudi Arabia is concerned. Otherwise, export to other destinations are going fine except Iran. We were quite confident when Joe Biden assumed the presidency of USA that the relation with Iran would improve and there would be relaxation in the US sanctions. Unfortunately, there are no signs of any mutual agreement between two countries. Iran is a market for 1.4 million tons of Indian basmati rice, which has definitely get hit due to US sanctions. However, some quantities are still going to Iran via third countries such as Dubai and Iraq. Pakistan has also become a big competitor, though they are also feeling the heat on recovery of money from Iran. Even Pakistan are not able to recover their money from Iran for the last 2-3 months. They are actually in a big dilemma being a border country. Interactions are going on between India and Iran on a government-to-government basis for barter deals. If things materializes, there will be a huge export of rice and medicines from India to Iran. Recently, Iran has removed the embargo of importing rice from India and other countries, which they every year impose during the month of July-August, because their new crop arrival season is from August onward. So day before yesterday only we got this announcement that the importers can import the rice and they can get the licenses. This is the latest news on Iran. On non-basmati, we are doing extremely fine as far as China is concerned. But we don't entertain much of the non-basmati business because the profitability is quite low. And KRBL do not involve in such businesses where the profit or margins are less than 8 to 10%. China will remain a big importer of 100% broken Indian basmati rice, but there are hardly any chances of exporting large quantities of basmati rice to China. Mostly basmati rice to China is catered from Hong Kong. But let me add over here that non-basmati business is increasing from India, and there has been 4 to 5 folds as compared to 2-3 years back, because we are the cheapest today in the world as far as non-basmati is concerned. When we went into the details that how the exporters are concluding such big business, we came to know that the business is concluding on a profit or margin of just 3%. That is why our interest discontinued to enter into non-basmati rice. Now I will like to give you some update on the new crop. I would like to update you on the new crop, which has also shown a lot of variance in pricing and quality this year. Farmers were not able to get a lucrative return of their produce last year, and therefore there was a less sowing by 10% as per the crop survey this year. Besides, the weather gods were probably unhappy, and delayed rains in October have damaged the new crop further. Thus, the crop size as compared to last year has gone down by 25% as against the initial prediction of 10%. This has pushed the basmati paddy prices upwards. Basmati 1121, which was sold at rupees 28,000 per metric ton last year, is being sold at rupees 36,000 per metric ton this year. Pusa 1718, which was priced at about 24,000 per metric ton, is at around 32,000 rupees per ton. Similarly, 1509, which was sold at rupees 18,000 rupees per ton last year, is now priced at around 28 to 30,000 rupees per ton. Traditional basmati has not yet arrived, but I believe that the price will open above 45,000 rupees per ton. If the prices of the 1121, 1509 remains the same, if they increase, then traditional basmati will further increase. But Pusa basmati rice 1401 is costlier by rupees 7,000 per ton as compared to last year. With the current price structure and the freight rates, the overseas buying pattern are somewhat subdued. The buyers are waiting the trend and may enter the market in the first or second week of December. Last time we have discussed about the development of new varieties by injecting 2 genes of bacterial blight and 2 genes of blast to control the pest diseases and to discontinue the use of pesticide. We have recently visited Pusa Institute and we are amazed to see the trial of pest-resistant varieties of 1121, 1509 and 1401. The crop was healthy and sound and will get the seed this year for foundation seed, and 2023 the commercial production will start for Pusa 1885, Pusa 1882 and Pusa 1886, a substitute of 1121, 1509 and 1401 respectively. We have recommended from the trade rather to change the name of the variety, it should be named as pest resistant 1121, 1509 and 1401. Now I would like to come on domestic sales. We have achieved a phenomenal growth in domestic sale, achieving a revenue of rupees 687 crores compared to rupees 386 crore year over year and rupees 417 crores quarter over quarter, which is around 77% and 65% higher over comparative periods. Further highlights on domestic business will be shared by Mr. Ayush Gupta. We are planning to acquire some new businesses in the food category, which will be informed as soon as we sign the agreement. We are in the process also of putting up some new plants for processing of regional rices in places such as Kandla, Karnataka, Maharashtra and West Bengal. We have already finalized a land at Kandla and the plant would be ready by next year, from where we will handle both export as well as domestic business. This plant will give us a major advantage in export due to logistic factors. We have already recognized a 30-acre land in Karnataka, which would most probably be finalized soon. Besides, our brokers are on a hunt for procuring a land in West Bengal and Maharashtra, and this will also be finalized at the end of this year. I am quite sure that with these new plants at Kandla, Karnataka and West Bengal, along with Maharashtra, with any finalization of an acquisition, along with the finalization of the acquisition, we will be able to increase our top line as well as bottom line in the years to come. We are a bit late in procuring this land and the project because of the COVID. Otherwise, these plants would have come by now, what was our original planning. On GI, the Supreme Court of India has remanded the case back to Madras High Court to decide on the issue within 3 months, out of which 2 months have already passed. Since the appeal was of the MP government, APIDA cannot interfere, hence the initiative has to be taken by MP government. APIDA may intervene after the lapse of 3 months as far as the EU is concerned, the matter stands as it is. Before concluding, let me add that in any agriculture commodity business anywhere in the world, there could be a differences in the revenues from one quarter to another, but we are sure that our yearly revenue picture will remain promising. I would now like to hand over to the moderator, to Ayush Gupta, sir. To Ayush Gupta. Over to you, Ayush.
Thank you, sir. I'll be now discussing the domestic division's performance for the Q2. I'm ecstatic to share that the domestic rice business recorded a strong quarter performance with volumes growing by 105% to 1,52,430 metric ton and revenue growing by 77.9% to 687 crores. Branded rice business, which continues to be our main focus in India, grew by 56% in volume terms and 51% in value terms. The balance increase in volume and value was contributed by and one-off unbranded rice opportunity which came along the way. The performance of the branded rice business has been all-rounded with positive contribution coming from all channels and across product segments. I will be discussing the numbers in two broad segments, the consumer segment and the HoReCa segment. KRBL has recorded highest number ever achieved in the Q2 of any financial year in the consumer segment. Backed by strong equity of the brand IndiaGate, the growth in the segment has been equally contributed by both general trade and modern trade channels. While growth in modern trade and e-commerce has been organically driven, we have, through our teams, put in place a concept of everyday great execution, where we monitor and manage the most critical performance metrics on a daily basis. This not only ensures consistent consumer experience, but also builds stronger trust and confidence amongst the customer. We believe these small wins every day will compound to give us a substantial competitive advantage in the long term. On the other hand, the growth story in the general trade channel has been far from organic. We have been undergoing systematic transformation. For a category which traditionally has been wholesale driven, today 30% of our general trade business comes from active retailing. Growth in this channel has been backed by persistent efforts of increasing sales team productivity, running successful retailer loyalty programs, and putting in place a GTM which is committed, resilient, and agile. To summarize, scaling up active retailing, practicing an impactful GTM, and focus on everyday great execution are the strong pillars on which we are driving the consumer segment of the business. Moving on to the HoReCa segment. Majority of the growth in the domestic market in Q2 has been contributed by the tremendous volume uplift in the HoReCa segment. While all four zones of India showed high double-digit growth compared to Q2 of last year, on account of markets opening up after COVID restrictions, the South zone, the highest contributor to the HoReCa segment, demonstrated close to 100% growth. On a lighter note, all I can say is that South Indians love their biryani. The performance at this front has been phenomenal, and the HoReCa numbers are a healthy double-digit growth even when I compare to H1 of pre-COVID levels with the current financial year. While brand equity and quality of product remain the top enablers which consistently allow us to penetrate this highly cluttered market, I believe undisrupted and consistent supply chain has given us an advantage over the vast unbranded fraternity of players in the market. At KRBL, our outlook for the Basmati category remains progressive. We believe there is immense scope of growth in both the consumer as well as HoReCa segment of the business. We are constantly evaluating and upgrading our retail and distribution capabilities to match that to FMCG best practices. I will now hand it over to Ashish, who will take us through the financial performance.
Thank you, Ayush. I will now take you through the performance from an in-quarter perspective. All figures mentioned by me would refer to the consolidated financials of KRBL Limited. Total income for the quarter stood at 1059 crores as against 1136 crores in the same quarter last year, which marked a decline of 6.8%. Overall revenue performance in the quarter was affected by exports during the quarter. Export rice revenue during the quarter was at 283 crores as against 669 crores in the same quarter last year, while the rice volume was at 45,896 tons as against 95,423 tons. The reasons for this performance have already been explained by Mr. Mittal. Moving on to the domestic rice business, as mentioned by Ayush, the domestic rice business recorded a very strong quarter with volumes growing by 105% to 1,52,430 tons, while the revenue grew by almost 78% to 687 crores. Arithmetically, you would see that the realization in the domestic business was lower than in the comparable quarter last year. This is the direct impact of lower realization on the unbranded sales, which caused the overall realization to decline, though the realization on the branded business continues to be stable with only a marginal dip over the same period last year. With these comments, I have covered the performance of the rice business of the company. Amongst the other larger products category, the power segment recorded revenue of 35 crores against 28 crores in the same quarter previous year, thus marking a growth of 20%. Having covered revenue, I will now move to the bottom line performance of the company. Gross profit of the company stood at 309 crores as against 339 crores in the same quarter last year, while the gross margin was at 29.2% as against 29.8%. As you know, rice exports offer a higher realization on a per ton basis. Owing to lower exports in the quarter, overall sales realization per ton declined, causing the cost of materials consumed to increase as a proportion to 70.8% of total income as against 70.2% in the same period last year. This caused the aforementioned movement in gross profit margin. EBITDA margin for the quarter was at 19.2% as against 19.7% in the corresponding quarter last year. PAT for the quarter was at 136 crores or 12.9% as against 150 crores or 13.2%. I'm happy to share that our net cash flow from operations was at 974 crores, a growth of almost 30% on a year-on-year basis. This was driven by tighter working capital management during the quarter. As we enter the paddy buying season, our cash position, our access to the working capital, and thus our paddy inventorying ability remains strong. Cash and bank balance, including investments, were at 915 crores at the end of the quarter, as against 343 crores in the same quarter last year. Having covered the performance in the quarter, I would now like to touch on some recurring themes raised by investors with a view to provide more color on some of these themes. First is with respect to providing a second click on the 4 to 5 year plan to achieve rupees 8,000 crore revenue target managed by management in earlier quarters and the consequent capital allocation. I would like to mention that we are firming up the plan and will be in a position to share more details on this in the next quarter earnings call. As Mr. Mittal mentioned, both organic and inorganic growth will be key to this plan. Second is with respect to the restructuring of the company's energy business. This is a discussion in the board meeting yesterday. The plan has been suspended. As has been explained in earlier calls, the major challenge in accomplishing any form of restructuring in this business is in dealing with several state electricity boards for amendment of the existing power purchase agreements. Second, the process to transfer the land and immovable property, including certain forest lands and revenue land, etc., is very cumbersome and involve considerable costs. Moving ahead, that brings me to the end of my prepared remarks. I will now like to hand over to the moderator for opening the Q&A session. I will just like to mention that as the ED matter is sub judice, we will not be in a position to respond to queries on this matter. So over to the moderator now.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Pritesh Shah from Lucky Investment. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity and season's greetings, sir. Sir, some color if you could give on the H1, what is the domestic volumes and what is the export volumes that you would have done in H1 and the growth there? Hello.
Can we move ahead to the next question? I'll come back on this right now.
Yeah. My second question is, here, since there is a lot of quarterly swing, it would be very nice if you could give us, based on the H1 performance, what should be your volume outlook for FY22? Also, this H1 export volume, from your opening commentary, does it mean that it doesn't include any major shipments to Iran and Saudi? If you could, clarify that. And my last question is, you mentioned about the new paddy prices in the current harvest. So I wanted to understand what is the inventory that we are carrying at the end of September in volume terms? And is it fair to assume that a part of this 7,000 rupees increase that you are seeing on the new cropping side a part of that would slow down to your profitability as you start entering the next half or, next 1 year where you use from your old inventory, this 7,000 rupees starts flowing to your profitability. These are my questions, sir.
I'll be able to answer you on the exports. That in this quarter there was definitely no exports to Iran, and that
I'm asking for half yearly. That would be very nice if you could give for half yearly.
Half yearly numbers, so I don't have how much half yearly for exports.
Half yearly volumes for export and half yearly volumes for domestic.
Okay.
And what is the growth there? Yeah.
Yeah. You had also put a question to us that was there any exports in H1 to Iran. So that I was telling you that in H1 those numbers are not that. For Q1 there was an export to Iran, little bit. A small quantity, I know that. But in Q2 there was no exports.
And Saudi?
Saudi there was some export during the first quarter, but second quarter is very weak.
Okay.
There are exports, but they are very weak.
Okay.
And I've already explained many times in the past that for last 2 years, this which was our most premium market, we used to export about 1 lakh of tons, worth about 600 to 700 crore rupees because of the financial debacle with our distributors. We have to now change the distributor. We are not able to achieve those numbers. Those numbers have come down to 20,000 ton a year instead of 1 lakh ton a year. But we are going. Every day we want to know when the flights to Saudi will start and when the visas will be given so that we finalize. We are already in discussion with 3-4 good Saudi distributors.
Okay.
Yeah, I can now share the volumes for the export, for the domestic business for the first half of this year. The total volume sold in the first half of this year in the domestic business was 238,300 tons. And in the export business, it was 139,320 tons.
What is the corresponding growth here, both the places? So I think domestic would have grown and export would have declined, right?
Yeah, that's right. So the same number for the domestic business in the last year was 137,300 tons, and like Ayush mentioned, this marks almost 100% growth over previous year.
And for export, 139 versus 1?
Yeah, I will just tell you that.
Analysis करके रखना चाहिए.
So I'll come back on the number for H1.
No problem, sir. So on my other question of this inventory, what is the carrying inventory that we have at the half year? And your comment,
Yeah, the total inventory in our books as of September end was 2,015 crores.
And in volume terms, sir?
So volume, I will share that number. The total, in terms of volume, I'll give you the volume for paddy and rice. So we had a total inventory of 62,000 tons of paddy and 365,000 tons of rice.
Okay. So my other question in this was when you're mentioning 7,000 rupees increase in prices for paddy this season, is it fair to assume that incrementally when you draw down your inventory on through your P&L via sales, a chunk of this inventory or let's say high realization should now start flowing through your profitability?
Yeah. So the way we look at it is that I think there is no way that we'll not respond to the higher cost of purchase, but at the same time, given that most of our volumes come from the branded side, I think to that extent we have that power to pass on the price and therefore protect the margin. Now, in terms of timing, whether that price increase happens in this quarter or a few quarters later is something that we'll have to work on.
Okay. And what is your volume outlook for 22 after what you have finished for H1?
So I think we are definitely looking at doing better than the last year. However, as Mr. Mittal mentioned, the trend on the export side is evolving. But our current view is that we should do better than what we did last year.
Okay. Just so that export figures of last year volume, if you could share.
Yeah, then I'll just come back.
No problem. I'm done with my questions. Thank you and all the best to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Amit Doshi from Care PMS. Please go ahead.
Sir, thank you. Before my question, just wanted to clarify on two comments which were made. So one of the comments mentioned was there was a 140 crore of export order which has been now realized. So is that correct understanding that the current higher debtors, which is approximately 150-200 crores higher than our normal debtors, is because of that account and it will be reduced to that extent?
No. Actually, we had exported the vessel in the month of September itself, and it was supposed to reach the destination before end of September. But during the voyage, it got accidented and it got halt, and it took it more than a month to get it repaired and reach the destination, which it has reached just on the 4th week of October, and the payments have come.
Now the export will come in the third quarter.
The export will come on the third quarter.
Okay. So higher debtors is irrespective of this particular order, because our debtors are far higher than our average 200-250 crore of debtors. So this quarter we have around 380 crores of debtor.
140 is included.
Yeah, that's correct. So I will just add to what the chairman said. So this particular sale that Mr. Mittal had mentioned is not a part of debtors. However, you're correct, the debtors are higher, but that's because of a separate transaction which we'll collect on in the current month.
Okay, fair enough. And one mention was about Iran a day before yesterday, some clarification came. So now we will be able to export to Iran, correct?
No, that is not the thing. Actually, every year in the month of June, July, Iran puts an embargo to import rice into Iran because they are themselves are basmati rice growers, and every year to protect the farmers' interest up to September and October, they always put the restriction on providing licenses in import of basmati or any other rices, which has been opened just 2 days back, and they've asked the importers that they can apply for the license, which is known as Sabte Sifarish, and we will provide you the license to import rice. But that payment problem is still persisting from India. It is difficult because sanctions are there, and to send any rice on rupee payment mechanism is not possible. So whatever rice is being exported to Iran, it is exported via Dubai and other destinations.
Okay. So we still don't see next say half year going back to old volumes of our Iran sales that we used to do probably 2 years back.
No, for last 2 months, a very high-level delegation discussions are going on between government of Iran and government of India, and I am quite hopeful by December or January time constraint could be there, time frame could be there. Otherwise, there is a barter deal which is going to take place because India is also desperate to import oil from Iran, which is cheaper by 5 to 6% over other countries.
Got it. In the opening remark of Ayush, one of transaction mentioned that there is one-off transaction of unbranded rice. So of course there is a huge jump in the domestic business of almost 300 crore year-on-year comparison. So what could be the contribution of this one-off transaction?
140 crores. 100 crores. 100 crores.
Okay, 100 crores or so. Okay, which is like a one-off transaction, which is not likely to repeat.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And just one point that usually our margins are higher in the exports compared to our domestic. Now considering that there is a significant jump in the domestic business, despite that our margins are hardly barring few basis points down. So what could be the reason for that?
Who told you the domestic margins are less than exports? The realization in export is more than the domestic.
Sorry, I meant realizations are generally higher in export.
No. The question is the realization is domestic is less because the basket which we sell them is broken rice, low price rice, but the procurement cost of that rice is also low. So you cannot comment that margin is low in domestic. Margin is equally good in domestic as well as exports.
Okay. And sir, you mentioned that, non-basmati rice has a very low margin and, that's something which is not of interest of KRBL. So these new plants which are being set up in Karnataka, Kandla, West Bengal or Maharashtra, and the acquisition that you are planning or, probably you are on the way to do some analysis. So what could be in those, it is towards what kind of segment expansion that we are looking at?
It's a good question. You are talking, this is a regional rice and it is a very premium quality regional rice. What we are talking, we'll be buying the paddy, milling it, aging for 1 year, 1.5 years, then selling it in a very, very premium segment. Not only in India, even in exports. And premiums are the tune of 20 to 30% over to new rice. We are not talking as a commodity. We are talking as a totally branded branded regional special. Just like you see Govind Bhog. Govind Bhog today is sold more than basmati rice, which is of West Bengal. Kolam rice, which is 1.5 year old, is sold by minimum 25 to 30% higher than to the normal rice. Sona Masuri in South is being sold at 25% higher if it is aged and a very good quality rice. So we are not trying to hit the 90 million ton market. We are going in a market which is around 1 million ton or 2 million ton.
Okay. Fine, fair enough. And this, apart from this one-off transaction of this domestic business, the balance part, you believe it's more of a sustainable number because that's something which is significantly higher. Or do you believe this is just a Q2, there is a bit of a pent-up, etc., that is there in these figures?
No, definitely, as I mentioned in my, prepared remarks, that the numbers that we are doing in consumer segment as well as HoReCa segment are on a positive outlook. The numbers that we have done are sustainable, and we see great amount of opportunity still lying in this market. There are a lot of expansion opportunities. There are still a lot of growth opportunities from a distribution and retailing point of view. So the numbers that we are doing are purely results of our efforts in the general trade and the modern trade channel, and we'll continue to make those. And we see, a lot of opportunity still in the basmati segment.
Okay. And last question about this huge cash that we now have, approximately 900 crore plus cash on our hand. What is the plan, to use it for these new plans or capex or acquisition, etc. And what balance portion you plan to distribute it? So I'm just trying to understand the allocation of that cash that we are going to generate and which you already have on our
food industry. The capex is not that big a cost. It is generally the raw material. When I say I have to age the rice for 1 year, 1.5 years, so I need thousands of crores for aging those rices. So we have money, but definitely it will be used in the raw material aging process.
Okay, so most of it is going to be, rather than increasing the distribution, we are planning to use that cash, existing cash as well as new cash generation towards this working capital of new, additional inventory, etc. Is that correct?
And we are looking at acquisitions also, so money can be spent there also.
Understood, sir. Understood. Thank you so much and wish you all the best.
Yeah, I think there was a query earlier on the H1 exports. That number is 132,000 tons of last year.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, a reminder to the participants, please limit your questions to 2 per participant. Should you have any follow-up, may we request you to rejoin the queue. The next question is from the line of Rajesh from Manure. Please go ahead.
So my question is, who bears the cost on the container and all? Whether we bear or the client bears, to understand how the container cost is behaved. And second, can there be an average inventory gain of 20% over next 1 year? And third question is, because our domestic business has improved tremendously, going forward if the export comes back either to Iran or to Saudi, so are we able to meet that demand? What is the capacity utilization basically?
All are very important and good questions. First of all, let me clarify that all the freight is borne by the buyer.
Okay.
And by the buyer, because we do not have a long-term sales every 2 months, every 1 month, because we are into FMCG product. So it is not that like a private label we sell together 40,000 ton. Each distributor is sold at a 1 month or 2 months consumption basis we sell. So all whatever freight is increased, that is to their account, and that is making the heat to the buyer. That is a big heat, and they are really worried if the freight rate goes like this, then there would be an impact on the pricing also. That's number one. What was the
second question on inventory gains on an average on 2,000 euro inventory? Can there be a 20% gain over 1 year?
That's minimum we are expecting. Minimum.
Minimum. Okay. And third question, sir, suppose now domestic demand has gone up. If export comes back in a big way after 6 months when the container price reduces, or we are trying to export to Iran, Saudi, Iraq, so will we be able to meet the demand?
Yeah, see, in all our conversation, we have been telling that we have a huge processing and milling unit at Punjab. We are already working that unit on a 60%, 55 to 60% capacity. So we have a capacity to be utilized 35 to 40%, number one. Number two, that even in processing, if you look at, we are working today at 80% or 85% utilized capacity. So 15% we have extra over there. Besides, we will be putting another processing plants because we age the rice for 2 to 3 years. So milling is not that critical for us. For us is the rice to be exported, and that already we have in stock. So we need more of processing lines, which we already have, and we are going to put another one this year also.
So, but procurement will be easier for us, or procurement will be difficult? So much volume, so if we are going to procure more?
No, there is no in rice procurement. So this is what is our speciality. We have today more than 2.2 million square feet of godowns ready. We have got about 6 million square feet of open plinth level for storage of paddy. There is no handling. Even if we increase by 200,000 tons, it will not be a difficulty for KRBI.
So the last question is like to like. Suppose we compare basmati to basmati in exports and domestic. What is the difference in realization? The cost remaining the same.
No, I couldn't understand your question.
He said if you sell the realization of basmati rice, if we look at apple to apple, then the realization in the exports and the realization in domestic, what is the difference?
Yeah, it's about 5%. It is 5% more in exports.
5% more in exports. Okay, sir. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, please limit your questions to 2 per participant. Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sarvesh Gupta from Maximal Capital. Please go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Mr. Gupta, if you can speak closer to the handset, please. We are unable to hear you.
Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. This is better.
Okay. Sir, I had one question on capital allocation. Now, you said that most of the cash that we have, and we do have a lot of excess cash now, will be used to finance the inventory. But the reality is, sir, your return on net worth is almost like 15-20% historically. And against that, your growth rate is much lower than the return on net worth. So even if you're targeting doubling to 8,000 odd crore, even then you're talking about growth rates of 12 or 13% maximum. And since your return on net worth is much higher, you will be able to more or less finance it with your internal accruals, which means that you actually don't need the 1,000 crore net cash or whatever 500 to 1,000 crore net cash position that you have right now. So what are the concrete plans about that? That is number one. And secondly, I think in the CFO's remark also, 2 of the questions related to the investors have been answered. But no decision or no announcement has been done on the buyback front, which also has been a constant question from the investor. So I think on these two, sir, we need more clarity because we actually feel as investors that you are financing your inventory, which can be financed by 5-6% pre-tax cost of debt with equity, which is much expensive way of financing this inventory, and which can be financed using the internal accrual from the profits that you will generate from this quarter to the next 5 years.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. I'd just like to add to the comments that I had made. This is Ashish. See, I think in the way the things stand right now, your observation is correct. However, as has been mentioned, we are looking at a 2x revenue. Now, for that, like has been mentioned, there will be a couple of levers that we'll pull. One will be on the organic side, which is manufacturing plants being set up. Second, Mr. Mittal has already mentioned that there will be inorganic acquisitions. So the future capital allocation may look, a lot different than our current capital needs. And this is why we've asked for time till the next earnings call for us to be able to give you a more second-click view on how the capital will be spent or allocated over the next 5 years. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, understood. Second question is on your realizations. I think it was mentioned just now that the realization in domestic is lower by just 5%. But if I remember correctly, if we were to do the maths of dividing your export revenues with the export volumes, at least in the previous periods, I think the realization was very significant to the extent of 40% or thereabouts. So more than 100 rupees per kg in exports versus what we fetch, what we get in domestic. So can you throw some more light on realizations?
When we talk about the pricing, we talk about the basket of products. In domestic, we have about 7-8 different SKUs starting from Mogra, Mini Mogra, Dubar, Tibar, and so many other things. Whereas in exports, only we export the head rice. And let me also add over here that broken rice is not allowed. It is banned under DGFT regulation 1928/37. Way back 20 years back, it was not allowed to export any broken rice outside the country. So when we talk of the realization of 57, it includes those SKUs which are Mini Dubar, Tibar, Mogra, which cost right from 40-45 rupees up to upward trend. Where in exports, we have a better realization because whatever we export is a head rice. The question was that if we match apple to apple, head rice to head rice, whatever head rice we sell into the domestic market as compared to the head rice being exported out of the country, there is a better realization of 5% overall over domestic realization.
Yes. Perfect.
Okay. And for the entire basket, the gross margin of export versus gross margin of domestic, is that the same, or you were saying that for the same?
Maybe it's practically same, maybe 2-3% here or there.
Okay, sir. Thank you and all the best for the coming quarters.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of VP Rajesh from Banyan Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity. Most of my questions have been answered. Just wanted to get a sense of the potential margin expansion given what Mittalji said about the exports to Saudi and Iran potentially coming back in Q4. Where could these margins go up to?
See, it is difficult to comment at this moment because anything being told from me should be 100% correct. But we expect once the Iran and Saudi market starts, we will really have a very good jump because if we look at 5 years back, my export 5 years back alone to Saudi Arabia was around 98 to 100,000 tons. And Iran, we have been shipping annually about 125,000 tons. So I am talking of a missing business of 225,000 tons, which cannot be brought back overnight, but slowly, I hope. It might take a year or 2 years to come back to those numbers. And when we are talking of those 200,000 ton business coming permanently again back to us, I'm talking of a top line of 1,500 crore rupees a year.
Okay.
And the margins will come. See, you know KRBL, you have seen for last my 10 years balance sheet. We don't do any business with the lesser margins because we are doing total business in our own brands. We are not doing private labeling.
Right. My second question is that you mentioned there is a high-level delegation discussing a barter deal with Iran. So has that been done in the past? Meaning, is there a precedence for doing barter deal with Iran?
See, that is indirectly what India played the game which was played 25, 30 years back with Russia. When Russia also came out of sanctions and there were no dollars available. So Indian government drived up a mechanism of rupee payment with Russia. Same happened, the same system we drive with Iran, and that rupee payment mechanism, you cannot call it exactly a barter, but it is a type of barter because against the import of crude, there was a credit being established with the Central Bank of India, and against that exports was used to be credited and debited to them. So when I talk of barter deal, there is about 2 million tons of fertilizer deal is going on, which they are not able to click. Either the mechanism is not helping India and Pakistan to reach at any development. But India is very serious because India requires certain fertilizers and petrochemicals and crude oil, which is much, much cheaper over other countries what we are importing. It will help Indian import budget as well as far as crude is concerned. So India is serious. But openly they do not talk because of the sanction.
Understood. My last question is regarding the acquisition. So if you can give a little more color as to what area we are looking at and what is the potential size of the transaction that you may be looking at. So that will be helpful just to understand how we are thinking about using this cash.
See, it has been almost now 4 or 5 months we have been discussing. It will not be appropriate for me to disclose the price of the acquisition. For 5 months, day and night, my team is working on this acquisition. But there are so many ifs and buts till the time it is not signed. If we are working on a deal for 5 months and there has been hundreds of calls from one end to another with the foreigners, with Indians, with third parties to conclude this deal, it is difficult to say whether it can be with our 5 months can be wasted also, or it could be. I was expecting this deal should have ended up in the month of 15th October only. Now we are reaching 15th November, so it's difficult to comment anything on the deal.
Okay, maybe you don't want to talk about the size, but maybe just directionally, in which area is it? Is it in the rice business or is it in completely different?
I would like to not disclose too many things which is concerning food business.
Okay, fair enough. Congratulations on hopefully getting this deal, I guess, and all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Anuj Sharma from M3 Investment. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Some of my questions have been answered. One was regarding Iran. In the best days, what was the maximum market share we had in Iran historically?
The maximum share of Iran, I feel, was in ending 2020. 20, I believe, where we sold about 200,000 tons.
Okay. My second question is on the distributor in Arabia. While it will take time as the permits come, and you said it will take 1 to 2 years, but he will be distributing on the back of existing setup, right? So why should it take so much time for a new distributor to scale up in a market wherein your brand is already known? Just some thoughts into this segment, please.
No, you have a valid question. Actually, this distributor was appointed by us in 1988. It has been always 32, 33 years he has been our distributor, and the relationship in 32, 33 years is of a different level. Now he knows all ins and out of the market. He has been working on a particular product of India Gate, and we have been doing exceptionally excellent results and excellent export to Saudi Arabia. In last 5 to 7 years, I don't know what mistake, they are not coming out with the truth. They made some mistake and did some oil deal or any deal. I do not know where they made a mistake, where they lost billions. And that is why financially they got broken. And for last 2 years or 1.5 years, we are really facing problem. Now we want to change a distributor. Now changing a distributor, if by mistake we decide on a wrong distributor, it will be a further disaster for me if I do not choose the right distributor. So it is most important for us to choose the right distributor. Now for choosing the right distributor, we have already selected 5 or 6 which are big MNC players over there in food items, and we require to meet over there and see their operations and their size and decide on the distributor. And that is the reason we want to go and visit, stay there for a week, talk to different people, and then decide who will be our next distributor for India Gate rice.
All right. My last question is, in the Middle East, are there any areas or countries beyond Iran and Arabia where you believe you can have a larger market share than what you have now? And which would be those countries? Thank you so much.
There is only one country which we are still not very aggressive, and we want to really develop business over there, but there we are facing the problem of profitability. People are working like non-basmati over there, where a very small margin. So we are looking for our own distribution, and that is Iraq. Iraq is a country who has started buying from 150,000 ton 4 years back to 600,000 ton currently. So that has developed a very huge market, and we are not able to find out that what is the mechanism we should adopt for Iraq, where we could get the good profits and reasonable share of the market.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Himanshu Upadhyay, an independent analyst. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good evening. I had a question on this Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah, so my question was on this. Last year we built a large amount of inventory as the prices were very low, okay? And now this year the prices are 20 to 30% higher, and we'll be selling even volume terms much higher in FY21 versus FY20 or even FY19, okay? So how would our strategy evolve on buying of paddy, and would it be that a similar amount we would like to keep of inventory, or you would be will again like to build a higher inventory because we sold higher in last year, or will be selling higher in FY22? So can you throw some light on your strategy and how the mind works when the inventory or the prices of paddy increases? Okay. So this was first question.
Yeah, you see, I don't know what will happen after 1 month or 2 months the market is on, but as the price presently is about 25 to 30% higher, we see our procurement should be 80% to last year. It will be lesser than last year, but next year our procurement should be 130%. This is the way KRBL operates. If the prices are higher, we do 80-85%. If prices are lower, we do 20 to 130%. That is why today the stock levels are 365,000 tons of rice.
And what the price farmers are getting, it will be double soon next year.
And it is natural phenomena in the industry. When the farmer get a very good price per acre, naturally the next year the sowing would be just 50% more than this year.
Okay. Okay. And second question was on the non-basmati side. Okay. When we mill the rice, we get even broken and half and 1/3. Okay. And we sell it in the market. Okay. For non-basmati, is the proportion of broken rice after milling higher or lesser? And do we get similar premium for non-broken rice in other varieties over broken rice? Because we are focusing on that segment, so this was the question.
No, there is no premium on non-basmati broken. Actually, we are looking at rice flour, we are looking at idli rava, we are looking at so many products of non-basmati broken. We will be value adding through those SKUs.
Okay. Okay. And thank you. And one last question on the acquisition side means when seeing what we see from your balance sheet and try to analyze, the two modes for an agriculture trading firm are having a brand, okay, and which gets recognized and hence you get some better realization. And other is your relationship to procure rice and whatever agro commodity you procure and process it, okay. So what will be the general rationales, let's say, for you to acquisitions, okay, or thought process when you will be doing acquisition, not just one, but in future also? And what would be the right approach to look at acquisitions in future? Yeah.
I couldn't understand your question. Could you repeat again?
So I was saying that in agro commodities or companies which deal with agriculture, there are two things, okay, or two modes. One is the brand, okay, or we buy companies for a brand. The other is processing and getting the supply chain, okay, the whole supply chain for that agro commodity, okay. So when a company looks at acquisitions, what would be the rationale for acquisitions or for us, not like the recent one we are doing, but even in future? So will we want to buy brands or it would be because we want to have a back-end supply chain and storage facility and relationship with various participants in the market?
We are buying the brand for two reasons. One is the brand and to increase our top and bottom line, because we are sure if the brand comes to us, we will be able to achieve a good top line as well as the bottom line. These are the two reasons of acquiring that company.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you from my side.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Abhishek Maheshwari from Skyridge Wealth Management. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Thank you for taking my question. Sir, I wanted to know if you can share the geographical breakup of your India revenues, maybe east, west, north, south, right?
I'm sorry, that information is competitive in nature. We will not be able to share it.
Sure. No problem. And so my second question is that last 2-3 weeks we have been hearing about food shortages in China. I don't know how far it's true or not, but we have been hearing about it. So are you hearing something like this in rice industry also, or is it just speculation?
I'm just confirming your question. Is your question about whether we are seeing any rice shortages in China?
Yeah.
No, there is a rice shortage. There is a rice shortage. As far as India is concerned, they are only interested in broken rice because the demand is quite huge, and Vietnam and Thailand are not able to supply them. Wherever it comes to for buying head rice, they don't want to talk to.
Hello. Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Could you repeat? I'm sorry.
There is a shortage of rice in China, and as far as rice is concerned, when it comes to head rice or superior quality of rice, they don't want to buy from India, and they are buying the total demand either from Thailand or from Vietnam. When India comes, they are only buying broken rice because that is their necessity, because so much of broken rice is not a necessity, because they don't have the availability of broken rice from Thailand and Vietnam. They are just, they don't have alternate of it.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you very much for answering my question. Good luck to you and happy Diwali.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Aman Madreja from Augmenta Research. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Can you just give me a mix of our B2C and B2B, if there's any, like what proportion of revenue comes from B2B and what proportion comes from B2C?
I'm sorry, once again, this is competitive in nature. We'll not be able to disclose that.
Okay. And sir, just a basic question. Like, why are we seeing the inflation, such price rises in the paddy and the rice? Like, what are the reasons for this price increase?
See, let me tell you, the rice sowing is done in GI area, which are limited to 7 states. And there is not an expanded, whole India cannot produce basmati rice. Now, basmati rice, as per other crops, is directly connected to the economics of the farmer income. Now, last year, the farmer never got a good price and prices were quite cheap. You will be surprised, one of the commodity variety called 1509 was sold at 18 to 19,000 rupees a ton, which was 50% in production this year, and the price this year was about 30 rupees, 29 rupees, which is not even 20%, which is 33, 34%. Now this year, because the farmer is going to get a handsome prices, and economically they are very happy on basmati prices, next year the production of basmati is going to increase, as Mr. Anup Gupta told you. So this is directly connected to the economic position and the income of the farmer.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we take the last question from the line of Chetan Doshi from Tulsi Capital. Please go ahead.
Good evening to all of you. Sir, looking at the balance sheet, if you see that there is a changes in inventory of finished goods or work in progress or stock in trade. Now, this current quarter, the amount has increased by almost 5 times. So last quarter it was 55 crores. This year you have shown 283 crores. Suppose we remove this or this, whatever is sellable, what impact it will have on the profit before tax? Because 6 times that amount is increased.
Sorry, I'm not understood your question.
Work in progress or stock in trade or finished goods or whatever you call it.
What is the question? Accountancy question.
Sorry, can you just repeat? I'm not able to say which line item are you talking about.
I'll tell you. See, you have shown that the work in progress or stock in trade or increase in finished goods, last year, September quarter, it was only 55 crores. This year it is 283 crores. That has reduced the profit before tax by that much amount.
Sorry, I'm still not able to relate to the figures. Can we just take this offline, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sir.
No, one second. I'm also not able to.
Yeah,
इसमें नहीं होगा ना वो.
आप बैलेंस शीट में सर देखिए, आपकी बैलेंस शीट में एक्सपेंसेस के अंदर.
Hindi English is not the problem. We are not able to understand. Don't worry. We'll let.
So I think let's take that offline because I'm not able to relate to the numbers, at least in the balance sheet.
Okay, leave it. Now another question is, hello.
Yeah.
You have shown your inventory position at 2016 crores. What is the saleable value of this current price? If you see, what will be the saleable value of this 2016 crores?
I think Mr. Gupta had mentioned that, if we look at our purchase price as compared to what we are able to sell, there is a clear markup of 20% that we estimate.
Correct.
Yeah. So does that answer your question?
400 crores.
Yeah, but like I had mentioned, our inventory includes, amongst other items, 2 things. One is paddy and the other is rice.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you should look at the 20% number on the rice value.
No, even both the value, 20% number, but it will come in next 3-4 quarters when the rice will be sold.
Yeah. Sir, going by the logic what you just explained to other investors, that there is a 30% gain in the current pricing over the last year. Now, if that is true, then the profitability is not showing that much improvement in the quarter which we ended, that is September. Can we expect that in the December quarter, the 20 to 30% jump in the current profit level will be shown?
It doesn't mean that I'll sell everything in that quarter only. The stock which I am carrying, 365,000 tons, will be sold in next 5 to 6 quarters.
Sir, let me tell you, KRBL is a very efficient company. It is showing an excellent investor presentation. We have no doubt that the performance of company is in good hands. We have no doubt on that. So,
no, what you are saying, you suppose I reach a turnover of 1,200 crore in the third quarter. In 1,200 crore, I will be selling the new crop also, I will be selling the old crop also. It is not the total stock which I sold, which I am carrying, I will be selling it. Maybe I am selling 30% of that, 40% of that, 60% I will be selling the current also, because parboil doesn't require aging. So the average profit, you can't say the total profit of that will come. Naturally, we are giving a EBITDA of 18, 19, 20%. Then third quarter, we expect a better EBITDA, no doubt about it.
Correct, sir. The reason is nobody carries such a big inventory in the rice industry like KRBL. So what we are concerned is that the profitability of the company also will increase because of the increase in the prices, and the realization is improving.
Yes, you are right.
Yeah. And one last question, sir. We requested you a couple of times regarding issuing some discount coupons on the premium basmati which we are selling. Now, if that is not possible, then I would request that we may be having around 40 to 50,000 shareholders. Why not distribute something free of cost if discount is not possible? Because we are carrying 900 crores cash. We can very often, spend around 1 or 1.5 crores on this.
Yeah, thank you for the suggestion. See, as far as pricing for the domestic market is concerned, Ayush runs it. He's sitting right next to me. If he sees value in doing this, he will do it, but the decision is really his. Yeah?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would now like to end the conference over to the management for closing comments. Over to you, sir.
Thank you to all the participants, and we are quite confident that we are able to answer the question in an appropriate and proper manner, and were able to satisfy our investors. And if anything is left over, you are happy to send us to a mail to make you satisfied in this regard. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen,